Discover the amazing secrets of Cleopatra. 3 surprising transformations from the Ptolemaic dynasty that will change your perspective on history forever. Lily Torres's mind raced as she gripped the edge of her desk, heart aching with the weight of her impending lesson. She had spent countless nights crafting a presentation on Cleopatra, a woman whose legacy pulsed with power and intrigue. Yet here she was, trapped in a town where history seemed to fade along with its economy. Her students slouched in indifference, shackled by disinterest, and she felt invisible, an unrecognized passion lost in a sea of apathy. How could she transform Cleopatra's triumphs into something meaningful for them when the classroom felt as stifling as the town's stagnant air? She could practically hear her grandmother's voice echoing from the past, urging her to fight, to reclaim her heritage. But what heritage? A life spent running in place, chasing grades and school board approval while dismissing her dreams as mere fantasies felt like a laughable farce. The whispers around the school filled her with doubt. Anticipation twisted into desperation. As history slowly slipped through her fingers, it solidified into a tension that made her breath hitch. Every yes and every no from the administration weighed heavily. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her grandmother's attic had unleashed unexpected secrets, tantalizing letters and artifacts that told the story of Lily's ancestor standing in Cleopatra's court. Each revelation added to the weight of expectation pressing down on her. The moment the letter detailed her great-great-grandmother's role in ancient diplomacy, the vision of herself, an underappreciated teacher, clashed with the reality of a woman who had wielded influence and commanded respect. But just as hope began to percolate within her, she faced the school board. They responded coldly, mocking her dreams, labeling her discoveries as distractions, not worthy of the classroom. The rejection scorched her spirit, shaping her resolve to fight for her story, her passion. Questions clawed at her. How could she stand up against dismissive attitudes and still face her students? Standing before the board during the heated discussion, resolve coursed through her veins, but fear loomed large. Her heart battered against her chest as she stood before those who had dismissed her, not just her ambitions, but the legacy she longed to share. Would they understand the value of her heritage? Would they recognize her fight as worthy? Each moment stretched like an eternity as she prepared to speak. Would she allow her voice to shatter the silence of inadequacy, or would she succumb to it? The echoes of a queen's strength coursed through her mind, and as she inhaled deeply, the weight lifted just slightly, but the stakes remained unbearably high. All eyes were on her, and the question burned within. Could she transform not just her life, but also touch the lives of her students with the story still waiting to be unveiled? The palpable tension hung in the air, leaving Lily teetering on the precipice of her destiny, undaunted yet uncertain. Lily's breath hitched as she stood before the board, feeling the collective gaze of disapproval pierce through her. In that moment, she teetered precariously on the edge of doubt and determination. What she wanted was not merely to recite facts about Cleopatra. She needed to weave together her ancestry and her students' disinterest into a fabric that sparked enthusiasm. But could she truly bridge that gap? After the meeting, she retreated to her classroom, the space that felt both familiar and alien. The stale air of disappointment clouded her thoughts as she wiped the whiteboard clean, erasing her ambitions along with their remnants. Ideas cluttered her mind. Perhaps she could incorporate modern issues, draw parallels between Cleopatra's reign and the struggles of today's youth. Each decision a step towards empowerment, rather than mere facts dressed in dull history. As she delved into her planning, part of her still felt like an outsider in her own narrative. Her grandmother's voice echoed with encouragement, reminding her of the Queen's resilience in the face of adversity. What did it mean to truly fight? Standing up for her ideas was one aspect, but translating them into a language that resonated with her students was an entirely different challenge. Determined, she drew up new lesson plans infused with passion. She researched through the night, gathering not only historical context, but also stories of Cleopatra's strategic intelligence, her political savviness, the way she navigated against the tides of misogyny in a patriarchal world. Suddenly, her passion surged. Couldn't that be mirrored in her classroom? When the next class began, Lily faced her students, whose heads drooped like marigolds in a drought. What transformation awaited her today? With newfound purpose, she opened with a bold statement, turning history into a living, breathing lesson. What if I told you Cleopatra was more than a seductress? She was a ruler who conquered not just lands, but the very narratives surrounding her identity. Slowly, a ripple of curiosity spread among her students. A few lifted their heads, others exchanged looks, questioning the idiosyncrasy of their teacher's bold words. It was a small victory, yet her hungry heart swelled with hope. As they delved into discussions about power dynamics, gender roles, and identity, Lily felt the seeds of engagement sprout. Her students, who had previously scoffed at history, began to explore their connections to it, compassionately contemplating the struggles of Cleopatra while reflecting on their own hurdles. Questions erupted. How do we define power? What does it mean to stay true to yourself amid societal expectations? However, even amidst this tidal wave of engagement, Lily felt the barbs of self-doubt. What if they didn't go home excited to learn more? What if this was merely a fleeting phase, like the brief flare of an ancient candle flickering against the wind? After class, she noticed Jessica, a formerly disengaged student, lingering as if wrestling with the weight of a newly discovered truth. Their eyes met, and, to Lily's surprise, Jessica spoke first. So, it's not just old stuff, is it? People like us can be powerful too? The sincerity of the question sent a tremor of realization through Lily. This was what heritage was about. It wasn't merely about Cleopatra or her ancient legacy, but how those threads connected to the now. As she left school that day, exhilaration danced in her steps. Yet deeper questions loomed in her mind. Were these students ready for a deeper dive into empowerment? Would they stand by her when she finally began to weave her personal narrative into her teaching? The tension of uncertainty curled around her ambition, leaving a lingering anticipation for what tomorrow would bring. The moment loomed. A decision awaited her. What story would she tell next, and would it echo her ancestors' strength? Lily awoke the next morning with a sense of urgency pulsing in her chest. Today had to be different. The lingering questions from yesterday's class weren't just echoes in her mind. They became the pulse that urged her onward. She had ignited a small spark in Jessica, and perhaps others, but could she fan that flame? Her own narrative was the next thread to unveil, but how to intertwine it with Cleopatra's story? The weight of expectations, both self-imposed and external, pressed upon her. As she brewed her morning coffee, her eyes flickered to the bookshelves lined with history books. They felt like mountains of both knowledge and expectation, towering over her. She'd poured her heart into the research, yet the idea of revealing her personal connection felt like standing naked in front of her class. What would it mean for her students to see her vulnerability? Could sharing her struggles inspire their growth, or would it turn them away? The bell rang with muted finality, pulling Lily back to the present. As she composed herself and entered the classroom, she found a new energy among her students. They buzzed with excitement, exulting in their nascent understanding of Cleopatra's complexity. Each hand raised signaled a shift, a small transformation, no longer passive receptacles of history, but eager participants in a conversation that mattered. "Today, we're going to dig deeper," she announced, striving to maintain a firm, confident voice despite the tremor within. "We'll explore how Cleopatra challenged the narrative of her time. But I want to do something different. I'm going to share a part of my history with you and how it shapes who I am as your teacher." A few eyebrows shot up in surprise, but curiosity glimmered like sparks in their eyes. Lily opened her heart, recounting tales from her grandmother, a fierce woman who had navigated countless struggles, often regarded with skepticism for her bold choices. As she shared, her own hesitance began to dissolve. The students, resting on the cusp of their own identities, seemed to mirror her resilience. One student, Marcus, leaned forward, engaged. "Did she ever feel like giving up?" he asked. The sincerity of his query sent a wave of understanding through her. Here was a connection. Her vulnerability laid the groundwork for their growth, creating a space in which they could reflect on their own familial challenges. "Every day," Lily admitted, her voice steady now, the words flowing freely. But it was her belief in the power of storytelling and authenticity that allowed her to persist. A tangible silence enveloped the room, students pondering the weight of her words. The air thickened with the essence of their shared revelations. In that moment, she knew she was at a pivotal juncture. This was more than an exploration of Cleopatra. They were on a journey to discover their own narratives. Empowerment wasn't just a word. It was a collective experience woven from shared histories, doubts, and victories. Perhaps this was what she needed to sustain their interest. Not mere facts, but a dialogue about struggles that spanned generations. After class, Lily encountered a flurry of reflections from her students, their eyes alight with newfound fervor. Jessica approached her again, this time with breathless anticipation. "Can we do more of this? I want to learn how to stand up for what I believe in too." Lily's heart swelled. Her approach had fostered engagement, but the work was far from over. How far could she take this initiative? Would the students be willing to embark on this transformative journey? The uncertainty clung to her like morning mist, a veil shrouded in potential, yet tinged with insecurity. As she collected her papers to leave, a persistent question loomed. What would be the next story to unravel? Each layer revealed the student's unfolding potentials. Time was ticking. With every turn of the page, history beckoned, and the questions bubbled to the surface. Would she guide them to confront their own power? As twilight descended, an exhilarating anticipation coursed through her. The time had come for deeper exploration. How could she challenge them further? What testing narratives lay ahead, and who among them had the courage to confront the boundaries of their identities? The next lesson awaited, and with it, the promise of transformation. Lily entered the classroom the following day, the atmosphere rich with expectation. She sensed the vitality that her students carried, invigorated by their last discussion. She was not merely leading a lesson, she was entering a dialogue that had the potential to challenge both her students and herself. The stakes felt higher today, the connections deeper. Today, we'll examine 3 key transformations that define Cleopatra's legacy, Lily began, her voice a steady anchor amid the whirlwind of her thoughts. But I want each of you to think about transformation as it applies to your own lives. How can we challenge our existing narratives? As she outlined Cleopatra's transitions from a politically savvy leader to a cultural icon, Lily's mind was drawn back to her own transformations. The parallels felt palpable. She was recognizing her journey, a transformation from an anxious teacher into a facilitator of exploration for her students. There was a distinct fear hovering over her. Would she be able to truly lead them into these waters, or would they drown in the unfamiliarity? The classroom buzzed with energy as students discussed Cleopatra's shifts. As Marcus contributed to the conversation, his eyes wide with newfound understanding, Lily faced her growing confidence and the inevitable struggle that stretched ahead. She had created a space for bravery within her classroom, but could she truly challenge them to unearth their personal histories? "Let's take a moment and reflect," Lily proposed. "Think about a moment in your life that changed the course of your path." She watched as pens moved carefully across pages. Faces reflected concentration, and she breathed a sigh of relief. They were engaging. But beneath the surface, doubt nagged at her. What if they shared too much? What if someone revealed a vulnerability that was deeply personal? Could she handle the weight of their stories? The resonance of potential tears flooded her thoughts, pushing her to reaffirm her commitment to authenticity. After the bell rang, Jessica approached, her expression earnest. "What if we do something more? Share our stories in a safe space?" The suggestion hung in the air, a double-edged sword. It excited Lily. It also terrified her. Here was an opportunity for profound connection, one that could strip away facades and lay bare their truths. Yet, opening up this kind of dialogue also meant committing to her vulnerabilities. She thought back to her grandmother's stories of navigating perilous waters with unyielding strength and grit. "Yes," Lily nodded slowly, emboldened by Jessica's enthusiasm. "Let's create a story circle. We will listen and learn from each other. In the process, we'll find our strengths." As she spoke, confidence began to spark within her. This initiative could serve not only as a bridge to their narratives, but also as a foundation for her growth as an educator. The more she leaned into her students' authenticity, the more open she became, inching closer to that form of teaching she had longed for. That evening at her desk, Lily reflected on the day's progression. There was still fear, that intricate knot twisting in her stomach, standing in stark contrast to excitement. Had she pushed too far too quickly? Within her, a tiny voice raised its hand, reminding her that vulnerability was a two-way street. Yet there lay a thrilling sense of purpose in crafting this story circle. Each narrative could unveil newfound potential for everyone involved. It was the beginning of a foundational shift, not only for her students, but for herself as well. How would they react? Would they willingly open their hearts, or would they cautiously retreat? Her heart raced as a new thought jetted across her mind. What if someone needed her to share more of her own story, to lead them into the depths of uncomfortable conversations? The challenge loomed before her. The time had come to confront her own historical narratives. With the next lesson on the horizon, she felt the weight of decisions bearing down upon her. Would she find the courage to navigate her personal history while guiding her students to forge their own paths? Or would she risk creating fractures in the trust she had built? As she prepared for the story circle, the upcoming revelations turned her stomach. Whatever the outcome, she knew one thing for certain. The next chapter of their journeys awaited them, and only time would reveal the truths lurking beneath the surface. As the sun streamed through the classroom windows, casting warm light on the desks, Lily felt a rush of anticipation. Today was the day they would embark on their story circle, an initiative that had the potential to reshape not only her students, but also herself. The air was charged with unspoken emotions, and she could feel her heart pounding, acutely aware of the magnitude of this endeavor. Would they trust her enough to open up? Would she be able to navigate their stories while revealing her own? She took a deep breath, looking around at the eager faces before her. The classroom, once her stage for instruction, now felt like a sanctuary of vulnerability. Today, we step into a brave space, Lily began, her voice slightly trembling yet resolute. We're going to share our stories with one another, to explore the transformations that have shaped us. As she introduced the circle's format, Lily's stomach twisted with anxiety. Was she ready for this? She envisioned Marcus's earnest eyes, Jessica's unwavering support, and also the silence of those who might feel hesitant. How would she strike the balance between her role as a facilitator and the necessary act of sharing her own vulnerabilities? The students formed a circle, and Lily found her chair directly across from Marcus. His nod brought her some comfort, but uncertainty loomed large. "Let's begin with an easy prompt," she suggested, attempting to calm her own nerves. "Share a moment in your life where you felt a significant change." One by one, the stories unfolded like petals on a blooming flower. The atmosphere grew thicker with revelations, some lighthearted, others achingly profound. Lily felt each student's story wrap around her heart, echoing parts of herself she often kept hidden. They spoke of loss, joy, awakening. Then it was Marcus's turn. "In 5th grade," he started, his voice steady, "I lost my grandmother. She was my best friend." As he shared memories laced with love and sorrow, Lily felt a stirring within her. The genuine emotion displayed by him and the others stirred something dormant inside her, a desire to share her own truths. Taking the dive, she spoke hesitantly at first, recounting the time she almost left teaching after a particularly challenging year. "I felt like I was letting my students down," she admitted, vulnerability wrapping around her words. "But it was in the midst of that struggle that I realized the importance of resilience and of learning from failure." Silence enveloped the room as her peers absorbed her narrative. Lily sensed a shift. The circle, rather than creating distance, bridged gaps, strengthening their connections. Each story felt like a thread weaving them together, fostering trust and stripping away isolation. Seizing the momentum, Jessica leaned forward, her eyes shining. "The courage you've all shown is inspiring," she said softly. "It makes me want to delve even deeper." Encouraged, others began exploring layers of their narratives, new truths emerging like treasures dug from the earth. Yet, as the circle continued, Lily's heart tightened with a flicker of fear. The more they uncovered their stories, the more exposed she felt. Yes, vulnerability belonged to everyone, but would sharing hurt her credibility as a teacher? What if her history cast a shadow on the light they were trying to share? That doubt stirred in her, creating discord with the newfound strength she had begun to embody. By the time the circle concluded, the classroom brimmed with energy and warmth, but Lily's mind churned with tension. A sense of accomplishment washed over her. She was leading, supporting, and connecting, yet the question that had begun to surface nagged at her relentlessly. What more could she reveal? What parts of her journey remained shrouded in secrecy that could connect her even more deeply with her students? As they departed, Lily stayed behind, clutching the desk as she wrestled with the decision. Would her revelations deepen the trust she had forged, or would they fracture the bond they had just established? She could feel the weight of impending decisions pressing upon her. Only one thing was clear. The circle had opened doors to profound discovery, both for her students and herself. The real challenge was yet to come as she prepared for the next class. Would she reveal the rest of her journey, risking the vulnerabilities that came with it, or retreat into the shadows? She felt the tension rising within her. With the next lesson on her mind, Lily faced the mirror of her past, fully aware that every story unshared created an opportunity for both connection and divergence. What awaited her on the other side of these revelations? The following week, the classroom transformed once more under the burgeoning weight of anticipation. Lily entered to find her students already gathered, a subtle hum of excitement filling the space. The memory of their last session lingered, both precious and disquieting. Each student's brave honesty rattled through her mind like a melodic warning. They had shared pieces of their souls. Now the question loomed larger than ever. Would she follow suit and offer her own duality of strength and frailty? At the outset, instead of diving straight into the activities, Lily decided to share a specific lesson. Today, we're going to explore how stories change us. She paused for emphasis, allowing the gravity of her words to settle. She felt the need to convey the importance of their narratives, to show how experiences could alter paths even when they seemed predetermined. Once, she began, her voice steadier now, but still trembling with apprehension, I made a decision that changed my career forever. I was a new teacher, and I completely bombed one of my first lessons. Her students shifted in their seats, curiosity bubbling as they leaned closer. Instead of powering through, I panicked. I stopped. I realized that I didn't know how to connect with my students. There was an almost tangible shift in the air. Lily's confession served as a small revelation, modeled after the vulnerabilities they'd shared. She could feel her insecurities transforming into something constructive, something powerful. But instead of letting that moment defeat me, I asked for their feedback. It was a tough conversation, but it helped me learn how to teach in a way that resonated with them. A flicker of surprise danced across Jessica's face, and Lily felt encouraged. Sharing her struggle gave weight to her lesson, and she sensed the waves of understanding rippling across the circle. As they navigated new prompts, each delve into personal experiences felt like both a gentle nudge toward connection and a push against the edges of discomfort. Marcus spoke again, reflecting on a similar moment of failure. His eyes sparkled with the understanding that grew between them. I thought I was a big failure too, but I learned from it. That experience made me realize that everyone has moments that feel like the end, but they can lead to something new instead.
His voice resonated deeply with Lily, reinforcing her budding belief that vulnerability was inherently tied to value. The multiple exchanges deepened Lily's confidence, yet the question of what to reveal next loomed larger than the insights exchanged. As more stories unfolded, she noticed herself initially wanting to retreat, to slip back into her role of merely guiding. Yet, the very act of sharing these moments opened a door she couldn't ignore. By the end of the session, the energy in the classroom surged. The stories shared were layered with emotions, transforming the once critical view of vulnerability into a necessary element of growth. However, with each shared story, the voice in Lily's mind whispered insidiously. Did they truly see her as their teacher and not merely an individual navigating her own sea of uncertainties? The closure of the session sent tremors of anxiety and excitement through her. She felt proud, yet troubled. She had uncovered a frightening vulnerability, but also an opportunity to grow closer to her students as human beings. In a moment reminiscent of both triumph and trepidation, Lily decided, deep down, that her journey must continue further. Reflection led to resolve. She wouldn't just reveal her past, she would prepare for a pivotal moment that mirrored her students' brave acts. As the bell rang and students began filing out, Lily's heart pounded with renewed determination. Tomorrow, she would share a story that captured the essence of her struggles, the moment that challenged her core, a story of sacrifice that still stung like a fresh wound. The countdown to liberation surged in her veins. Could this self-revelation integrate her with her students in a way that solidified their bond? She stood at the precipice, feeling the pulse of her heart resonate more fiercely than before. The time had come to share the most personal piece of her journey. As she prepared to lock the door behind her, the air thick with unresolved tension, she muttered to herself, ready at last to confront not just her past, but also the way it would shape her future. Was she truly ready to face both vulnerability and strength in the same breath? The morning arrived cloaked in a soft mist, wrapping Lily in a sense of introspection. Her heart drummed steadily against her chest, echoing the uncertainty mixed with determination swirling in her stomach. Today was the day of sharing, a moment of truth that could either bind her to her students or leave her feeling more isolated than ever. As she entered the classroom, the atmosphere buzzed with energy, every student chattering animatedly, their faces bright with anticipation. Excitement washed over her, yet left an undercurrent of fear, a reminder of the stakes she was about to raise. The previous sessions had kindled a fire within the group, one that could flicker out or blaze into something transformative with her next words.
Today, I want to talk about sacrifice, she began, modulating her voice to capture their attention. The room quieted, an eagerness hanging in the air like the charged tension before a storm. Sacrifice can take many forms, but it can often lead to profound personal growth. As she launched into her story, Lily focused on the pivotal moment in her life that had changed her perspective forever. I was working at a school in a different state, and things were spiraling out of control, both inside and outside of the classroom. I was overwhelmed to the point that I had to choose my own mental well-being or my job. She saw their faces reflecting a mix of concern and intrigue. This wasn't just a discussion anymore. This was real. I chose my well-being, despite the risks it posed to my career. I left that position, and for some time I struggled to make sense of my decision, but ultimately it liberated me. The silence in the room deepened. Lily could feel the weight of her vulnerability inviting a response. It wasn't a simple path. In reclaiming my life, I discovered my passion for teaching in a new way. I learned to prioritize what mattered, not just to me, but to my students as well. I transformed my approach to education, grounded in empathy and connection. The words cascaded from her mouth, fueled by the raw emotion she had kept tightly sealed for so long. It was as if every hesitant step she had taken was now crystallizing into something solid, a message she hoped would resonate deeply. Marcus's gaze locked onto hers, his expression shifting with understanding. "That's brave, miss. How did you handle the doubt?" His question pierced through the layers of her confession, forcing her to confront the shadows lurking within. That doubt was a constant companion. I wrestled with guilt, fear of judgment, and concern over my professional future, she admitted, her voice carrying a tremor. But that struggle pushed me to redefine what success meant for me. It's not about a title or recognition. It's about making an impact, however small, and fostering connections. The conversation unfurled organically, other students chiming in, sharing their own stories of sacrifice or moments of significant choice. The palpable vulnerability widened the bonds between them, blurring the boundaries of teacher and student. But underneath it all, a gnawing voice whispered doubts she couldn't ignore. Was her revelation strong enough to encourage them to step out of their own shadows? Did she risk alienating them by exposing her flaws? Or could this lead to greater understanding? As the session drew to a close, Lily sat in the quiet aftermath, her heart lingering on the words that had been exchanged. The bell rang, jolting her back to reality. Students filed out, their expressions a mix of thoughtfulness and newfound momentum. Yet she felt the storm of ideas brewing within her. Her mind raced as she considered the potential of their experience. "Tomorrow," she thought, her resolve hardening, "we will dive deeper, explore not just vulnerabilities, but also the strengths forged in struggle." A thrilling anticipation coursed through her as she prepared to leave, but behind that excitement lurked a profound fear. What if the following exploration revealed truths that were both unsettling and enlightening? She knew she was setting the stage for it, a confrontation with not just her students' perceptions, but her own. As she glanced back at the empty room, Lily realized she had ventured into uncharted territory.
The challenges that lay ahead could redefine not just her students' experiences, but her identity as an educator. What if tomorrow opens a door I can't close? She wondered, her heart racing. Was she truly prepared for the echoes of those revelations? The next morning unfolded with a tension that had settled like a thick fog in Lily's chest. She arrived at school earlier than usual, her heart racing with the urgency of her thoughts. Today wasn't just about discussing struggles. It was about awakening strength amid adversity, a concept she had once struggled to grasp herself. Sitting at her desk, she organized her materials, but the chaotic fluttering of her mind rendered simple tasks monumental. How could she navigate the delicate balance of encouraging her students while addressing their vulnerabilities? The weight of responsibility pressed down on her, urging her to make the most of this opportunity. When the bell rang, her students shuffled in, their faces a canvas of excitement and trepidation. "Today," Lily started, her voice steadier than she felt, "we are going to explore the strengths we find during difficult times." She could see the perplexity on their faces, mixed with lingering hesitance from the previous day's revelations. But she pressed on, putting on the facade of calm even as she silently confronted her own uncertainties. After recapping yesterday's discussion, she prompted them to reflect. Think about a time when you faced hardship. How did it define you? What strengths emerged? As they shared, Lily observed, feeling their energy shift as they opened up about their personal battles. Some spoke of family struggles, others about academic pressures. Each story resonated like a ripple in a pond, each providing insight into not only their characters, but also her evolving role as their guide. As Marcus shared how he felt stifled by expectations, she saw flickers of recognition pass among other students. Their shared experiences began to forge a bond, marbled with both understanding and the rawness of reality. Witnessing this transformation ignited a spark in Lily. Her own insecurities started to crumble, replaced with a glimmer of newfound confidence. Yet on the periphery lurked that familiar doubt. Should she share more of her own journey to grounding lessons in fear and growth?
It was a risk. Would it inspire, or would they view her as demonstrating a superiority grounded in experience? The weight of potential judgment pressed against her as much as the responsibility she felt toward them. Sharing isn't just about the light. Sometimes it's about the dark places, too, she found herself saying impulsively. To truly understand our strengths, we must acknowledge our weaknesses. I've made mistakes, and I still fall short sometimes. As she spoke, the words gained unexpected clarity, resonating beyond surface-level connections. Her admissions opened the floodgates. The classroom transformed into a refuge where students exchanged their hardest moments, grappling with shame, fear, and doubt. In the process, they peeled back layers of fear, not just connecting with Lily, but discovering strength in one another's stories. The growth wasn't merely academic or professional. It artfully blended emotional resilience into their individual narratives. As the bell rang, signaling yet another transition, Lily felt reinvigorated, yet unsettled. The authenticity of their shared courage coursed through her, yet the doubt remained. Had she truly facilitated the depth of understanding they needed? Lingering at her desk, she pondered how far they had come together and what it truly meant to guide others through their struggles. Tomorrow, she decided resolutely, we'll delve into how we transform those weaknesses into strengths. The thought sent thrills of both excitement and fear racing through her. Where would that discussion lead? What further truths remained to be uncovered? She took a deep breath as she closed her lesson materials. Lily was stepping deeper into the murky waters of vulnerability. What challenges could she anticipate as they pulled apart the seams of their insecurities? The echoes of today swirled in her mind as she headed for the exit, an overwhelming sense of anticipation pulling her forward. What awaited them on this path? Clarity, chaos, or something entirely unforeseen. The morning sun cast long shadows across the schoolyard, illuminating Lily's path as she returned for another day with her students. The anticipation from the previous session clung to her like static. What transformation awaited them today as they tackled the intricate process of converting weaknesses into strengths? The question loomed large and heavy in her mind, highlighting her own hesitation before each step she took toward the classroom. As she settled into her teaching space, she glanced at the collection of faces warming up to their desks. Their expressions reflected a mixture of eagerness and apprehension, the same emotions she felt swirling within her. Today wasn't merely about teaching, it was also about modeling bravery and self-acceptance. "Good morning, everyone," she greeted, her voice projecting confidence despite the flutter of uncertainty beneath the surface.
Today, we're going to dig deeper into how we can turn our challenges into tools for growth. She opened her lesson plan, but found her thoughts drifting towards what lay ahead. How could she lead this exploration while navigating her own vulnerabilities? The echoes of yesterday's brave confessions weighed like stones in her heart. The depth of their discussions hurt and healed simultaneously, reflecting back on her own unacknowledged struggles. More than anything, she wanted to guide them safely through this phase of discovery. "Let's consider our vulnerabilities for a moment," she began, forcing herself to meet the curious eyes around her. What if, instead of simply seeing them as weaknesses, we sought the potential within them? The room fell silent, her students absorbing the concept. She watched as their brows furrowed, their wheels turning. In that pause, a palpable tension brewed. Would they resist this notion, or would they trust her in this uncharted territory? "Remember Marcus's story from yesterday," she encouraged, feeling the thread of connection still present among them. He spoke about feeling stifled, but within that there was a desire to break free, to find his unique voice. Let's break into groups and discuss this concept. How can we each find that voice hidden within our struggles? As they bridged into small groups, Lily found a moment to breathe. She had orchestrated a new direction, but now she faced her own dilemma. Could she embody the journey of vulnerability she was asking them to undertake? It would require her to step further into the spotlight, risking exposure. During their discussions, snippets of dialogue caught her attention. Students passionately sharing how setbacks influenced their lives confronted her. Lily felt a pull in her stomach as she listened to Claire, who discussed her battle with self-criticism. It was reflective of her own struggles, and she recognized that weakness, serving as a catalyst for fear, but also for innovation. When the bell rang once more, signaling the end of the session, energy buzzed around the room. It invigorated Lily with new purpose. "Before you leave," she interjected, her voice steadying into conviction, "let's take 5 minutes. I want each of you to jot down the strength you believe could stem from your vulnerabilities. If we can articulate those strengths, we can begin to strategize ways to activate them." As students' excitement boiled over in quick exchanges, Lily pondered her own reluctance to foster that same articulation for herself. Was she still withholding a vital part of her journey in fear of judgment? Before she knew it, the class was abuzz with ideas, laughter shaping new alliances, fresh understandings between peers bonding in their shared pursuits. Yet a gnawing doubt settled again in her heart as she closed her notes. Was she doing enough? Had she unlocked the door to empowerment, or merely cracked it open? She had their trust, and yet her authenticity remained untested. As she prepared to leave, a small voice echoed in her thoughts. "What transformational shifts am I missing from my own life?" Her heart quickened, a familiar tension rising within her. Resolving to push the envelope even further, she felt a deep urge to confront this personal hesitation. Tomorrow would mark a turning point, a chance to dig into her past in an effort to inspire her students more authentically. Lily took a deep breath,
reconciling a whirlwind of emotions, each one urging her towards self-discovery. Could she showcase her weaknesses for the strength they might evoke, both in herself and in her students? As she walked out of the classroom, a single thought lingered. The time had come to face her own truths. Lily entered the classroom with a determination she hadn't felt before. The time had come for her to pull back the curtain on her journey, not just to teach about transformation, but to live it in front of her students. She was ready to confront the shadows of her past, recognizing that the narrative of struggle was not just hers alone, but one they all shared in different forms. The moment the students stepped in, the energy was electric. They were curious. They were ready to delve into the theme of resilience that had woven its way through their previous discussions. Today, Lily began, her voice steady but her heart racing, I want to share a pivotal moment from my past that shaped who I am today. It's a story about vulnerability, but more importantly, it's about discovering strength in those vulnerable moments. She took a deep breath, gathering the courage she'd channeled from their collective journeys. When I first became a teacher, I was consumed by the pressure to succeed. I remember a particular year when I felt completely overwhelmed. The demands were suffocating, and my passion for teaching began to fade under the relentless grind. As she spoke, she watched the students' expressions change, intrigue replacing their usual detachment. Lily continued, I reached a breaking point and realized that I couldn't keep going the way I was. I had to make a difficult choice: stay at a job that was damaging my well-being, or step back and reassess what mattered. I chose to leave that position. There was silence in the room, heavy with understanding. She could see reflections of their own struggles mirrored in her words, a recognition that they all grappled with personal challenges. It was in that decision that I discovered my strength, not in my position, but in my willingness to prioritize myself and redefine what success meant. As she unwrapped the layers of her struggles, she observed her students' engagement deepen. They were not just witnesses, they were active participants, leaning forward, absorbing every word. There was an unspoken acknowledgement in the air. Here was vulnerability, laid bare, and with it, the possibility for growth and discussion bubbled up like a spring awakening. I learned that embracing my struggles opened pathways of authentic connection, not just with myself, but also with my students. It allowed me to redefine my teaching approach, she said, a spark igniting within her as she recognized the potency of her own narrative. I realized it wasn't solely about disseminating knowledge, but about fostering resilience and building community among us. Marcus raised his hand, interrupting her flow, but in a way that built momentum. How do we keep that perspective when it feels easier to just give up? The sincerity in his voice tugged at Limmy's heart, underscoring the very essence of their discussions. That's the crux of resilience, Lily replied, her confidence growing. It involves recognizing that each setback carries a lesson, a stepping stone toward growth. Just as I learned through my struggles, you too can redefine your setbacks into strengths. Look around you. Chances are your classmates are feeling something similar. As the discussion flowed, Lily witnessed a transformation unfolding. Students began sharing their stories of struggle and resilience, moments when they had felt lost, just as she once had. It was a cathartic experience, one that fortified their bond as a classroom community. They were bridging the gap between educator and students, and with each revelation, they were collectively affirming their strength. At the end of the session, Lily felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The act of sharing had not only liberated her, but had also opened a wellspring of bravery among her students. They grasped the profound truth that vulnerability could lead to connection, and the threads of their individual narratives had woven them closer together. Leaving the classroom that day, Lily brimmed with satisfaction. She had faced her fears and chosen authenticity, the very lesson she wished to teach. No longer just an underappreciated teacher, she had become a mentor, guiding her students through the depths of their identities, forging paths to resilience and self-acceptance. She stepped into the bright sunlight, and with it came a solid confidence, a recognition of her competence as an educator shaping the future. Reflecting on their transformational journey, she realized that she had achieved something meaningful, mastering the art of vulnerability while empowering her students to embrace their stories. This culmination of efforts was not just a personal win, it was a triumphant stand against the feeling of invisibility that had once haunted her. With determination coursing through her veins, she reaffirmed her position, both as a teacher and as a custodian of stories yet to be told. Tomorrow awaited, and with it, new opportunities to explore the complexities of their narratives. As she walked away, she couldn't help but smile, for she had conquered doubt and emerged stronger, ready to guide her students in a renewed mission of self-discovery. The time had come for all of them, including her, to write their own histories with pride. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait even one more second. To share, only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.